Hey, I'm Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. Today we're going to be talking about getting out of our own way. I feel like a lot of times we don't even realize how ourselves, right, can stand in our own way. A lot of times we're able to identify external factors that contribute to our regression or our adversity, but it's harder to acknowledge the fact that sometimes we're our own problem. And I really want us to tap into how to get out of our own way, how to surrender and really just do the things we're supposed to do to be in the best positions that we want to be in. Because that's what this year is about. That's what we're trying to do this year. That's what we're tapping into. So the first point I have written, because y'all know me, got my books. But anyways, have you made it to the point where you're tired of your own ways or habits? And we have to be honest, because I feel like it's easier to point out flaws in other people. I think sometimes it's harder to really be accountable and really reflect and see what we're doing that's contributing to what our life looks like, whatever that is, and whether you're happy with it or not. If you are happy with what your life looks like, I'm sure there's things that you can do to improve your life or things that you would like to change. And if you're completely over where you are, then we got to figure out what's happening for us to be in this space that we don't like, right? So for me, I can be honest and say sometimes the things that I do just really, I irk myself. Like sometimes I be knowing better than the shit that I be doing, the places I be going, the people I be talking to. And I still do it. I don't know if it's just out of habit. But we're going to stop that because we got to stop making excuses. I really want us to be accountable going forward. And to be the best version of ourselves, it can't be us doing the right thing sometimes, right? It kind of has to be all the time. My next point is, are there goals or desires of your heart that you haven't attained or at least grown closer towards if you made 1, 2, or 3 changes that you aren't aware of? So are there things that you want to accomplish that you can reflect right now and see that the things that you're doing won't get you there? For example, let's say you want a job out of state. You won't get the job if you don't apply, right? What else? Like other examples, like if you want to join a basketball team, right? If you're not practicing how to shoot, how to dribble, and all, y'all, I'm not really into sports, so this was a poor example on my end. But if you're not doing anything to contribute to the skills that they're looking for in a basketball player, then most likely you won't make the team. And we have to be more honest with ourselves about what we're doing to end up in the places and spaces that we say we want to occupy. To be in alignment with those spaces and places, we have to do things that reflect being in those spaces and places. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just come to us by chance. Everything is perfectly calculated. I like to say divinely ordered. So we have to really get into that, like tap into what's really happening here or not happening, right? Because sometimes it's not even just what you do. Sometimes it's what you don't do. Okay. So are there a couple things that you can probably internally identify that you could do differently to be closer to the things that you want to attain? I think we all know that. I think we all probably have a couple things that we know we could do more. I know for me, I could try to sleep more. I could try to slow down. I could shop less. I could definitely shop less for sure. But I'm big on retail therapy. So, we're working on it. We're working on it. I'm going to really, really hold myself accountable to not carelessly spend. The next point is, this is why no part of your journey should be without God. So y'all know me, everything comes back to the divine because God is everything. God is everywhere. And you want God in every space and crevice of your life. If there's a part of your life that you feel like God is absent in, then you need to really reflect on why that is. Because if God is absent in an area in your life, that's scary. That's honestly scary. Like, you need God. I don't care what anybody says. I always tell people, I don't really care too much what people believe in. And I say that loosely, right? But follow me. When you believe in nothing, I'm completely concerned because why don't you believe in anything? That's weird. There's too much that shows you that God exists that if you haven't found it, I'm concerned about who you answer to. I tell people all the time, we all answer to somebody. You just don't know who someone answers to. Don't let that go over your head. So anyways, getting out of our own way, we have to allow God space in our life, because that's the person or the being that we should be following. God sets the example. God sets the tone. God sets the standard of law. You know what I'm saying? That we're supposed to follow. So getting out of our own way entails or requires us to be receptive to his voice and guidance. So to be receptive to his voice and guidance, he has to be welcomed in our spaces. And that means, like, I be praying to God, like, look, I need you all up in here. Look, this job I'm trying to apply for, I need you there. My apartment, I want you everywhere in here. These relationships, I need you all up in there. Because if God doesn't have space in these places, then it's not anointed by him. And if that's the case, I don't need to be there. You can have it. You can have it because it's not for me. Point blank, period. And if I talk about God, this is so funny that I put this in the notepad. If I talk about God too much for you, move on. This is a safe space for all believers, regardless of religious or spiritual practices. And I stand firmly on that. Like, if you feel like I talk about God too much, I'm sorry. It's not going to change. I am a believer. I'm not like super religious at all, but I'm very spiritual. And God has really made God has been big in my life all my life. And God has made his presence known for me all my life. So just growing into this point in my life, there is no way that I won't give God glory, because that's insane. That's insane. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We just got to get used to it. We got to get into it. We got to welcome that energy. If it's cringe, turn it off, I guess, because it's not going to change. The next point. Our way is imperfect, but God's way is without flaw. So, getting out of our own way, we're like, man is foolish. Man is moved by the desires of the flesh. We struggle with our ego. A lot of times we just aren't led by perfect principle. And that's just the reality. So when you think about God's way, there's nothing that God asks you to do that is wrong. God will not tell you to do something wrong. Okay? Your ego may tell you to do something wrong, but God never orders us to do something wrong. And if there is someone that needs to be directly reprimanded in a way that could reflect something negative, I'd say God will do it himself. And I think we all know that, because I tell people all the time, God is great in every aspect, but God doesn't reward bad behavior. So people do get what they put back out, and however that reflects, because we all got to pay back what we put out into this universe. With that being said, God's way is perfect, and we have to start desiring to act in a way that reflects what he wants for us. You can start by reading your Bible, looking at scriptures, getting back familiar with the word, and not just your Bible, the Quran. I just say holy books, period, because most holy books of the major belief systems have rules, just like the commandments. And those are the orders, basically, that you follow to be a decent human. And most of them are pretty similar. Most of them will say, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. Whether it's said that way verbatim, it's probably stated, because those are common things that you should not do if you're a decent human. So we have to get in alignment with God's way to get out of our own way. And man likes to think that we can do a lot of things on our own, and that's our problem. I had to really sit with that recently in the last couple months when I was feeling kind of out of place with a lot of things that I was trying to do. I was feeling overstimulated, and I was feeling like I was just trying to get a lot done, but it felt like nothing was going on at the same time. And I had a big epiphany. And the epiphany was I was trying to do everything without God. And me, a person who tries her best to pray, who thanks God all the time, I still hadn't really opened up my space for God to really show up in a capacity that I needed him to. And once I realized it, I really broke down, because it was like, wow, not me trying to do this on my own. And first of all, God never said you had to do it on your own, right? He never said it'd be easy, but he also didn't say he would leave you. So it's like, how you gonna ask to do all this by yourself. Like, I'm just mere mortal. Let's be serious. And then accountability. So it's the fact that I can't read my own handwriting. Sometimes I write so sloppy. Be responsible for your own actions, habits, thoughts, and beliefs. And that's a big one, because the way we think really does reflect in our actions, and your thoughts become matter, and that matter manifest into experiences and circumstances that we have. So you really got to reprogram your thinking from the ground up. A lot of times we have to dismantle what we started out with, because a lot of things that we started out with, we were surviving at some point. Now to live and thrive comfortably and in a, excuse me, I'm always belching. That is so gross. I'm sorry. But anyways, we have to have actions and thoughts that align with our higher selves, because, lack of better terms, the lower version of ourselves cling to behaviors, thoughts, and desires that just aren't ordained by the Most High. And it is not in our best interest to pursue those things, because we really won't be peaceful. We really won't be happy. We really won't be blessed in spaces and places that God is in and God enables us to go. Okay. A lot of times we do stuff and we be wondering why we in the situations that we in, but God never told you to go over there. He actually probably told you not to go that way, and you went that way because you was curious. Curiosity definitely killed the cat. I know there's a continuation of that phrase. If anybody knows it, y'all can put it in the comments. But the first set that most people use, curiosity killed the cat, it holds a lot of weight. Anyways, lean not to your own understanding. This one is big. This one is big because a lot of times we try to rationalize things based on our human thoughts, and the world that we live in and the plane that we exist on and the divine that created us, it's not built on what we can fathom. There's a lot of things in the human experience that we will never completely understand. And I don't think we'll have the ability to understand ever. And if ever, not while we're here. You know, I be believing if you get promoted, lack of better terms, right? You get all the tea. But as long as we're on this side, there's going to be a lot of things that we don't understand. And that requires us not to lean to our own understanding. That requires us to stand on faith. God gave us faith. When they say faith the size of a mustard seed, that's facts. That's facts. Sometimes all you need is just that inkling of a belief to get to that next step and to even see something better, or to see something more, or to believe that God is there and God will get you out of this place and into a better space. If that makes sense. I really be rhyming and I be pissing myself off because it's not on purpose. So forgive me. Anyways, your own understanding also will confuse you. Because again, our way is flawed. God's way is perfect. Our way is imperfect. When you lean to what God gives you, which God gives you consistent truth, those things never change. It won't confuse you. It'll have clarity. It'll be clear. God doesn't give you confusion. The enemy gives you confusion and doubt. The enemy gives you confusion and doubt to deter you and make you question what you already know. So when you have clarity and truth, you know that came from God, because truth doesn't change, and God's authenticity in his reality existence being is truth and clarity. Point blank, period. Ego death is the next one. We gotta take a deep breath on that one, because a lot of us have big egos. I know I do. I'm working on it. I think it took me a very long time to identify that was actually a problem, because our ego does exist to protect us. So a lot of times giving up things that come with your ego feel like you're giving up on yourself, because this thing was created to literally protect you from harm, to protect you from things that seem like a threat, you know? So it's hard. But the reality is, like, you don't need ego, right, when you have God. And I know that sounds cliche, but seriously, like, you don't need your ego when you have God, because that false empowerment, that false self-righteousness that is given to you, it's hollow. It's not sound, and it's not something that carries a lot of weight or value. It's fleeting. It's fleeting, just like feelings. So it really holds no value when you really think about it. It just made you feel good about yourself in a moment. We're here for longevity. We're not here for those temporary rushes of dopamine. So we really gotta tap into like being honest with ourselves and get into the root of things. My note also says, no, you cannot do it alone. And that's the truth. Like, you can't do these things without God. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, a lot of times you've been having a hard time because you never invited God to take himself on a journey with you, right? We be so busy trying to get through this life and get through the next task because we have so many distractions on this plane. We forget that we serve him. So if we serving him, how are we going to ask to get to this space and not invite him to that space? That's kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't ask your friend for help for something, but then when you get to something, like, you don't want them to see it or be around it, or, you know what I'm saying? That's super strange. And I feel like that's the way we treat God sometimes. Sometimes we try to put God on the shelf and say, I'm gonna get back to you later. And I found myself doing that in the last couple months with all the things that I was dealing with in life. Moving twice last year was definitely not a part of my plan, but I did it. And it was super frustrating. I was super overwhelmed. I was super stressed out. And I was so busy trying to get to the next task that I didn't even process the fact that I hadn't invited God to be present in every part of the journey. That's why I was having such a hard time. And when I finally had that moment and I broke down and I released and I sat with it, I journaled about it, I prayed, I realized, like, God, I need you to show up completely with me. I'm sorry that I ever thought I was going to do this without you, because I cannot. And I know that because everything that I've been through in the past required me to spend real time with God, required me to sit down and really petition to God about what I was going through and what I wanted and how to show up, and creating that fellowship is so important. You don't leave God behind. Right? We need him. We have to invite him in every space, and we have to be consistent in that. We have to be intentional with that. That cannot change at all. The last point, dismantle and rebuild the foundation. We have to dismantle and rebuild the foundation to get out of our own way, because like the foundation that we have at this point was built from childhood. All the things we've experienced, all the traumas we've had, all the disappointments have created beliefs in our minds that reflect in our thought process, our actions, and everything we do going forward. So to get out of our own way, a lot of times the things that we do consistently that cause us to be in our own way are part of our foundation. And that's hard to just uproot, because a lot of things you've been doing your whole life, you don't even know how to do it another way. A lot of times you don't know it was a problem until somebody else tells you it's a problem. You thought it was cool because you was getting through life doing this thing. And now it's like, what do I do? You have to dismantle it from the ground up. Picture, like, you know, when they're knocking down buildings and they take that big power ball and they break it. That's what we got to do. And it's tough. It's hard because it is a grieving process when you have to separate from habits and beliefs you've had your whole life, because those things, we cling to them. They're ours. They're ours. It's almost like your little babies in a sense. And sometimes you feel like you're leaving your old self behind when you give up on some of those negative habits and belief systems. But at the same time, you really have to remind yourself that you're trying to be the best version of yourself, and that requires you to think a new way. You have to adopt new ways of thinking. You have to adopt new ways of even feeling. You have to adopt new ways of expressing, because what you did before won't work now. You were in a different space then. But now the spaces that you're in and the spaces that you're trying to go in require a different version of you. And to get out of your own way to get there, we have to invite God into the space, and we have to ask God to show us to be like him. And we have to ask God to remove the belief systems that don't reflect what he wants us to know. And we have to ask God to block out those outside voices that aren't from him, because we hear a lot of voices in our head. I always say one is you, one is God, and one is the enemy. And then a lot of times there's even more voices. It could be like the voice of that person at school that always told you like rude things or bullied you. But even then, that's the enemy's voice, because the enemy was using them to tell you something. Okay? So a lot of times we have to really break things down from the top to the bottom and rebuild it brick by brick. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be worth it. And it's definitely going to be necessary because you can't skip that part of the process. You have to allow yourself the space and the time to feel, accept, and move forward. But that's what we're going to do because, like I said, we're trying to be the best version of ourselves. This channel is about us being honest. We're going to dig deep. We're not staying on the surface. I was never a surface level girl anyway. What's that? I hate small talk. Let's get into it. We want to be the best version of ourselves, and that requires us to really get down to what we're doing wrong, where we're trying to go, who we answer to, and what we need to be closer to God and the best version of ourselves. And I don't feel like there's a way to be the best version of yourself that isn't closer to God. So, like I said, I thought this video was going to be short, but we're at like 21 minutes kind of now. Anyways, getting out of your own way. This year, we will not be our own roadblocks. We will allow ourselves the liberty, the freedom, the space, and the grace to be successful. I felt that deep exhale, okay? Y'all know my movie is Waiting to Exhale. I love that movie. Anyways, that was so random, but I'll just close my book, whatever. But thank y'all for checking in. If y'all stayed in for this long, I appreciate y'all. Like I said, we're going to grow a community together. I want us to interact. I want us to really help build with each other, hold each other accountable, be honest in a safe, kind way. No shady business. I'm not into shady stuff. Yeah. We're going to be the best version of ourselves in 2024. So thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.